This is from my textbook in microeconomics, and we're going to be looking at shapes of isoquants, and it's discussing various figures from chapter 3. So an isoquant, it's different combinations of inputs that we give the same amount of output. Okay, so let's look at some different examples here. So to be able to draw them nicely, we focus on two inputs. So the most standard ones in teaching would be capital with K and L labor. Okay, so units of capital, number of machines, number of buildings, etc. And L, number of people working, or number of hours working, or some measure of capital and labor that's used in the production. Okay, so for different technologies, these can take different shapes. So one example of a potential shape that's particularly simple would be that of a straight line, like this. Okay, so this is the case of what we call perfect substitutes. Okay, so we're always willing to, or able to, substitute one input for the other, and the effect of that doesn't matter on how many of each we're using. So we could say, think of we're wanting to deliver 10 packets of something. We can do it either with some pre-programmed drone. Okay, so pre-programmed drones, it's capital, or with people running around delivering these packages. So we could give a number of packets with 10 drones and no people, or with 5 drones and 5 people, or with 10 people and no drones. Okay, so we would always be willing or able to substitute one for the other. They're not really interacting, and in that sense, we were always able to substitute one for the other in the same proportion. Okay, that's one example. Another example, another extreme would be the case of what we call perfect complements. So here, we could think of the capital as, say, rickshaws, the bicycle, like a bicycle taxi. So rickshaw, and labor as riders of that rickshaw. So for starting from 1-1, we have one rickshaw and one driver. That person can produce a certain amount of rides. If he is to get another rickshaw, can he produce more? Not really. I mean, he will still be constrained. It's just one driver. He can't ride 2 rickshaws at the same time. And he will be on the same isoquant. He will not be able to produce more just because he gets access to more rickshaws. Similarly, in a sense, if we have more drivers, we can't really produce more rides without having more rickshaws, at least not in the relatively short run. Might be, if you're thinking over 24 hours, you can have, if you have several drivers, you can have them operate at the same time. But in the short run, we're thinking of a case where you're not able to substitute one for the other at all. It's only when you have 2 of each that you, in earnest, are able to produce more. So this is, we're another, if we're able to produce like 10 rides with one driver and one rickshaw, we're able to produce, well, say 20 rides then with 2 rickshaws and 2 drivers, etc. So 2 different isoquants here. And the case where isoquants are L-shaped like this is what we call imperfect complements. Okay, so these are inputs that complement each other, that go together. We could think of them as pairs. Okay. So these are the extremes: perfect substitutes, perfect complements. Okay, the typical case, however, in economics would be where you can to some extent substitute, but it becomes harder and harder to substitute the less you're using of an input. Okay, so think of a bakery, and get back to capital and labor. Well, maybe we should do that in black, right? Just to keep things the same. So now let's look at the case of what we call imperfect substitutes. That's the way we term this. Imperfect substitutes. Okay. So think that you're using this much capital, this much labor to produce bread. So, say 9 units of capital, 1 unit of labor, 9 units of capital, one baker. You can produce a certain amount of bread in a given day. Okay. If you use less capital, less ovens, less machinery, but more labor instead, well, you can describe how you can trade off these two by a curve like this. So up here, when it's highly automated, you'd be able to get rid of quite a lot of capital and just replace it with very little, relatively little labor, and still produce the same amount. Okay, so this would be, you're having lots of machines. The machines are repairing the machines. If you actually get someone in to supervise these things and to do some footwork, you can that person really makes a difference. Okay. Whereas, say, down here, there's very little machinery, lots of people. People are milling around, trying to find their spot close to the oven. If you could get rid of quite a lot of people and only replace it with a little more machinery and produce the same amount. Okay. So you would have a pattern like this where you have this kind of bowed out shape. So think of here, say 1 and 9. So if you could produce, given number of bread, with 9 units of capital, 1 unit labor, or with 1 unit of capital, 9 units of labor. But if you had like 5 of each, you would actually be able to produce more. Okay, so you would be able to reach a higher isoquant. So it's isoquants.